So now we have a system where our player, the enemy will patrol, right? So we have a state for patrol, and we have a state for chasing. So I have two. Let's set up a couple of other ones just to, kind of fill it out here. So one thing I'm going to do is go ahead and do a state for the idle. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in here just kind of as like a default thing. So there's idle, and then I'm just going to let's put it after locomotion. Oops. And I'm just going to do void idle, and literally all idle is going to be is just calling locomotion and putting in 0, which we've already kind of been doing anyway, and that will be fine. So that's just sort of a fall through. So what I'm going to do with that idle made, idle just means don't move. That's all we're going to put on it. But if we wanted to have like an idle animation of the enemy just sitting there, that would also be possible. And now what I'm going to do is on the triggers here, I have player present. I'm going to change this to player else if. And that's going to seem a bit redundant, but if the player is not present, right, by putting the exclamation point means not. So if not present, and then we'll just do else, and this will be my fall through. And in this one, it's just going to go ahead and we're going to do enemy state. It's just going to be idle. Okay, that's just basically if for some reason, we're going to have more things in here, but if for some reason it all falls through, the last one, if it doesn't know what to do, just sit there, right? That's basically the idea. And it might come in handy later on, but that's basically the way we're setting up. So now what we need to do is we have it being able to patrol, and now we have it being able to chase, but it's not yet attacking. So we're going to create two types of attacks. I'm just going to do one in this video, and that's going to be the melee. All right, so we're going to do melee and melee attack. All right, so, but in order for that to work, we need to set up a couple of parameters here so that we have that, functioning the way that we would like. Okay, so up on the top here, let's just do a section after, so we have enemy state patrol, so that's kind of stuff with that. I don't feel like I need these public anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and change these from public to private. Private, right? It's always good to make them private. I just had them public so I could see that they were functioning. So private, let's make that private, that private. We'll leave those on. Wait, public. Yeah, that one I needed on. Okay. So let's, after these, I'll make another section. And we will make this the stuff for attacking. Okay, so we'll do a public float. And it will be melee attack time. Basically how often it hits, right? So it's going to hit. You don't want to just say attack and it'll go. I mean, it'll kill the player in a millisecond. So this is how often we're going to say to hit. So like hit, wait, hit, wait. That's the idea. Now with that, we need something that's going to hold the time. It's going to hold the current time until the next attack. Okay, and that's going to be, that actually doesn't need to be public. This one can be private. Private, and this is going to be the melee attack time counter. That's going to count, and that's going to start off initially at 0. So initially we're going to say start at 0. Then we're going to need another public float. There's going to be a lot of variables here. Public float, and that's going to be the melee attack damage. So how much you're going to hit the player for. It's not going to matter quite so much right now, but it will matter later on when you actually go to apply it. And then we're going to do another public float melee distance. Okay, so how close you have to be in order for it to, hit the player. Okay, so good. So I think that's what we need. So basically one's how often it hits, how much it's going to hit, and how close it has to be in order to hit. And this is just counting for hitting purposes. Okay, so we have this melee thing. Let's go ahead and open up melee attack, and let's go ahead and make that function. And so we're going to do it after patrol, chase, after it gets done chasing. Typically, that's when you're going to go ahead and do the melee attack. So melee attack, boom, and okay. So when it's going to attack, we're going to tell it to do that. For now, let's just do a debug, .log, and we'll say, melee attack with exclamation point, because we're excited about it. Okay, so basically it's just going to write to the console that it's attacking. We'll fill this in afterwards, but I just want to make sure that that is in fact working. So what I'm going to be concerned about more is that it's actually able to attack. Okay, so we need to figure out a couple of things. So it's only going to be attacking if it's in chase, right? That's the idea. So right now, the way we have it set up is, let's go ahead and save this. It's not going to do anything, but just so you can see, the way we have it set up is if I hit play, it doesn't look particularly good. So right now, if it detects me, it's going to let it go. It's going to go, okay, yada, 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 and boom, it stops, right? Which is good, and that looks fine. But what would be... I hate it. Hang on a second. Let me jump over here. Okay. Why are you not jumping? You know why? Because I think there we go. So if you look, no matter what, he keeps bumping up against me, and that just doesn't look very good, right? It'd be good if he went up to me and then hit. So he went up to me and then he would stop. Just like when it gets to here and it stops, right? Even if it's seeing me, it still just stops. That looks better to me than having it constantly, all the time, right? It just looks like a bug. So what we want to do is right now on the chase, we have it, if it's on ground, that's fine. And we say basically if the player's distance from me is 0, and it's in one direction, I want you to do that, right? But that's not actually what I want. So instead, let's not do if the player is present or if the ground is present. Let's do if the player is greater than my melee distance. So basically, once it gets up to a spot where it can hit me, then go ahead and, and do that, right? I think that would be better. And then we'll also set up, because this would have worked before, and that's fine. But right now, if ground's present, it doesn't need to be within that distance. So I'm just going to go ahead and do an else if here. And we'll just say player, not detection, player, thank you, distance. Player distance is greater than melee distance, and player direction is greater or equal to 180. Because you got to remember, it's not just greater than, because 180 is actually what it's going to be. Wait, 180 is down here, so wait, 90, boom, boom, boom. Oh, actually, sorry, just greater than 180 is fine. All right, so, and it's greater than 180, boom. Okay, so if we save that, so now what it's going to do is it's as long as the player is greater than that melee distance, he's going to keep going, but as soon as it's within melee distance, he's not going to keep moving towards us. So the idea here is, you know what, before I even play this stupid thing, hang on a second. This has got to stop. Stop. There we go. This has got to move out of the way. Get over there. Okay. I guess I can jump over there for crime and nitly. Okay. All right. So now, when he goes over here, you're going to see he stops. See how he stops? Which is much better, which is good. The only other thing is actually, I didn't set melee distance up. So he's still trying to get too close. So let's set on my enemy thing where it says melee distance. Let's go ahead and just make that like 0.5. So it's like half a unit. he's going to go up, and now he'll stop, and if I go on the other side, you'll see he'll stop at a certain thing, and he's not like actively tormenting me. Okay, that looks pretty acceptable. Yay. Okay. Good. Alright. So now what we can do is, now that we have that set up for it to stop, what we can do is up in here where we have our triggers, right? I have one set for player present. That's what we're currently setting. Let's do another one, and we'll set a trigger for the melee. So we'll say else if, right? The actually, let's put it before patrol, because patrol, oops, it's not like it actually makes much difference, but just to keep it cleanly. So after player present, we're going to say if player is present. So this is also if player is present, right? Because you can't attack if it's not present. And the player distance is less than or equal to melee distance. Okay. Then what you're going to do is you're going to do enemy state is going to be equal to melee attack. Okay. So basically, if both of these things are true, then it will do that. Okay. So yay! I'm going to save that. All right, and let's go here, and we're just going to look and see if it does attack there. If not, we might have to add another detection thing, but we'll see. And whoop. Okay. Alright, so it seems to be going in idle. Alright, let me double check, see what I did wrong here. So if the player is present and the player distance is less than or equal to melee distance, that's right. If player is present and maybe I just need to add it here too. Distance, player distance is greater than melee. Yeah, no, that's right. Melee distance. Then chase. So the problem is, I don't know if you saw over here. This is why I like to make it public. It was showing it as idle. So for whatever reason, that one wasn't triggering. So let's see if we hit play now. All right, so player's not present. He's gonna patrol. That's good. Come on. There we go. And he is not coming forward. So you can see again, it's going idle. Well, I figured out why it wasn't working, and the answer is I'm an idiot. So just so you guys can see, it's a good example though of if and else if. So if you have an if and then I have another if, these are not like dependent on each other. If you have an if and then an else if, what it's going to do is it's going to go from if, and then it's going to test else if, and then it's going to test else. Otherwise, what ends up happening is it won't test these. It'll have to be, so these three, it has to choose one of those. This one just runs completely separate. So what ends up happening, or what was happening, is that this one was running. It was saying, oh yeah, that's true. And then it was running this and overriding it and making it idle, even though this would be true. So I just forgot to put else if. Now it'll work. Save it like that, and then voila, you'll hit play. Come on. Come on. Okay. But it was basically running an idle, which is what we had idle for, was to, yeah, come on. All right. So if I go, great. If I go over here, you can see, yeah, he's going to chase me. Oh no, he's coming for me. Oh no. And if you look down here, you can see it says melee attack when he gets close enough to attack. Right? So it says patrol, chase, and then it goes melee attack. All right? Yay. Okay, so that all is working. So now he is officially melee attacking, and that is good. One thing I don't understand, let me see something real quick. Attack, case, melee. So you say melee? Oh, that's why. It's melee, not melee attack. Whoops. Melee. My bad. Okay. Now it should do the thing. Okay, so what it's going to do is just going to say, I'm not going to test it because I know it's going to work. It's just going to say basically, debug or whatever attack, right? So what I want to do is basically just make this attack. So what I need to do a couple of things. I need to more or less set sort of a timer on it, right? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to say if time.time. So that means what current time is. So we're like, when this runs, it says, what time is it, right? Obviously, it starts at 0 when the game starts. And then basically, this is just a time that's running, okay? If the time is greater than the melee attack time counter, that was the thing we made earlier, then it's going to run this bit of code, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to set melee attack time counter is going to be equal to time.time plus the melee attack time, okay? So what that means is this, and let's go ahead and do a debug.log, and we'll just say, strike. Oops, make sure it's in quotes. Strike. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to run this function, and it's going to say, okay, is the current time larger, meaning is it past the melee attack time counter? And if you remember at the very beginning here, we set it to 0. So when it, right here, right? Set it to 0. So initially it's going to be, yeah, whatever time, right, is going to be past that, right, from the get-go. Then it's going to go, okay, that's true. It's going to go down here, and it's going to take whatever the current time is. It's going to take the current time, so the time now, and then it's going to add our attack time. So it's going to say whatever time it is now, and then add, let's say we add 5 seconds. So it's say, now that a counter is going to be 5 seconds into the future. And then it's going to run this, and then if attack time tries to run again, if it runs right afterwards, which it will, if we're right next to it, it's not going to be that time until it's 5 seconds after this was run, if that makes sense, okay? And so now, if we were to save it, you'll see if we go here, and let's play, it'll say like a strike or whatever. Okay, and let's make this jump, and it doesn't do anything until we get into attack, and then strike, strike, strike. And the reason why it's striking so much is, this is why we have the attack time counter, is that we need to take our time, and let's make it 1 second. I feel like that's fair. You can change that if you want, but... Alright. And now, you'll see, strike, 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 strike. Alright, you can see how it says 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 30. Okay, so it's taking and it's striking us at those times. Alright, so that way, it won't just be and dead. It'll give us a little more time. Now we can make that number shorter or smaller, and it will attack faster. Okay, now what we need to do is actually apply that, right? So did I give the player health? I don't remember. Is there even... Let me see, lives. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the player stats script, and let me see. Oh, actually, let's just select the player, and let's see, does he have, where's the stat script? Okay, he's got lives, but that's all I have on there. So open up the player stat script, and let's make sure he has life. Life text. So all I have are lives. Okay. So I'm going to make another function here. We're going to make a public void. We'll call it health. And I will have it take a float. And we'll call it let's see, I did life before. We'll call it player health. No. Health. We'll call it HP for hit points. Okay. So, and what we'll do is we'll just say, we don't need if. We're just going to say that, oh, and I also need to have health up here too. So I'm just going to go ahead and do, what do you call it? We'll make it public. And we'll make it a float, and we'll call it player health, and I'm going to set it initially equal to 100. Okay? Yay. All right. And all we're going to do in this function is we're just going to say player health is going to be minus equals HP. Okay. Or actually, let's do plus equals HP. So that way, if we want to add health, if we do a health pickup, it'll add it, and then we'll just send it a negative number if we hit it. And then what we'll do is we'll say if player health is less than or equal to 0, then you're going to go ahead and run lives, and we are going to send it a -1. Because remember, in here we have we send it a life, so we can give it a life or remove it a life. So we just say if life is -1, then it's going to go ahead and restart the start position. If we give it a positive number, that means this won't run. It will actually add to our lives. So basically, if the health becomes under 0, it will run that lives function, and so on and so forth. Okay, great. So we'll keep that. Let's go back here. Sorry, back here. Good. And, oops, I don't want animation, I want console. Come on. Okay, so let's clear this out just because I don't like all that. All right, so let's go back to my script, and we want to go to the enemy script. And inside of here, that's what we need to do. So what I need to do is have access to the player. Now, I could go up here and right off the bat have it like in the start section, search for the player, and so on and so forth. But I think what I'm going to do instead is actually on the player detect, we're just going to go ahead and find the player from that. That way it doesn't even try it until it sees it, and then it will go ahead and be like, oh yeah, I need the player. So we'll just put it before player distance. So we'll do a private game object, because that's what we want, is the game object. And the game object will be a player object. Okay, so that's what we're going to store it in, and then I'm going to go down to my player detect function, and we're just going to say player distance, player direction, and we'll say that player object will be equal to hit dot collider dot game object, like that, and that will store the object into it. I'm going to do the same thing here. All right. Yay. Okay, so it'll store whatever it's detecting right into there, so that'll be great. And this way, too, if there were 2 players, it would be able to hit either one of them. It doesn't have to look for a specific player. It'll just whatever player runs into it. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, when you... we'll do it after this. When you do run this thing here, we're going to go ahead and do a couple of things. So we're going to say, oh, see, that would be nice. I wonder if I should do that. Well, we'll do this first. I might add like little splurges of things later on. So we're just going to go ahead and say that the player object, right, dot, and the name of that script was get component. We want to get component. The component we want to get is the player stats script. So player stats script. And then I want to, on that script, I want to run the health, that health function. So just do dot health, gotta be a capital. And then we have to send it a number. In this case, we're going to send it the melee attack damage. And I'm just going to put a minus in there. That way you don't have to put a minus in the thing. That way it'll send it a negative number, and then I'll hit boom. And voila, that will apply that. We can also do this, so just to make sure that it's working, let's also just bump it, right? Like so that they're like we add a little pop to the player, so when he gets hit, he or she gets knocked back. So we're going to say if, well, let's see if this is working first, and then once that's working, we'll do the next thing. Okay, so we'll go here. And I'm going to select the player this time so I can see, and you can see I have player health right here. So I'm going to hit play, and we're just going to keep an eye on this and make sure that that's going down. All right, and okay, and oh, and it didn't like it. So not set to an instance of an object. Okay, so it's not seeing my player object for whatever reason. Oh wait, let me check something real quick. Player, no, it's on this, right? Player stats script. Not set to an instance of an object. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it and see what's going on. For some reason, it's not seeing the player object for whatever reason. So we'll check that out real quick, and then I will let you know. Alright, so I solved what the issue was. So just to show you how I figured it out. So I was playing this, right? So you play the thing. Well, you already saw what it was doing, right? So I was playing it, and then what it was doing was saying, oh, I can't find it. Here's what I ended up doing to solve it, just so you can see how to... I was like, okay, maybe it's not seeing the player object. So instead what I did is I took, because you remember right here, where are you at? Player detect. I have it set the thing it hits as the player object, right? So, so what I'm going to do is instead I set it to public. So where's player object? I made it, instead of private, made it public so I could see what it was hitting. And that's when I figured out what the problem was. So I'm just going to save that. And if I hit play, okay, and if we go over here, what I'm going to do is if I go to enemy, you can see player pickup. So what's happening is on the player, here's the player, right? That player pickup is the bigger box. So if you look, there's ground check, there's the graph, it doesn't have anything, and then player. The player is the little one on the inside. So the thing it's hitting is actually the player pickup script. And if it looks on the player pickup script, there is no stats script. So that isn't going to work. I mean, it's going to work because it's pretty easy to fix. But so I'm going to set this back to private. And what we're going to do is instead of, where are you at? Player object get component, it's going to be player object get component in parent, because and we'll say that, because the player is a parent, right? Because this is a child of player, so that will actually shoot up and it will look for the component in here, and there it is. And then on the enemy itself, we just need to make sure we put in I'm going to put in like 10 for attack damage, and then I'm just going to go ahead and select player, and then we'll play it. And then we're just going to keep an eye on my player health down here. And as long as that's going down, then we'll know that it's working. So, whoop, and we'll look, and boom, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And you could change these things. Boom, and then he starts at the beginning because that's how we have it set up. That when he dies, he starts back at the beginning again. Okay, and he has one less life. So, yay! That works pretty good. All right, so let's also let's go up to the top here, and it's not entirely necessary, but maybe after damage we'll do a public float melee attack bump, we'll call it. So it's just a variable so we can control how far it's going to push it, but I'm also going to have it push the object as well. So we'll just go here, and we're just going to say basically if the player, because we need to push it either left or right, so otherwise it'll always push it in one direction. So player direction is less than 180. Oops, 180. I want you to go ahead, and we're just going to tab because I only need to do one thing. We're going to say player object dot get component and parent again, right? Because I can't do it in that one. And we're going to look for the rigid body 2D, so we can apply it to that. And then we're going to say add a force. This is how we're going to bump it. And the force we're going to add is going to be a new vector 2, because I mostly want to push it away in multiple. So new vector 2. Oops, vector 2. And then that's going to need those amounts. So we're going to say, what was it? It was melee attack bump. That would times space times 2 is what I'm going to say. And then the other one is going to be the melee attack bump again, divided, actually we'll just do melee attack bump like that. And then I'm just going to put a semicolon here. And then does that fix it? Still upset. Oh, whoops. Component and parent dot, oh no wait, I don't think I need that. I think it's like that, right? Component and parent. Okay, player object, get component and parent, rigid body. Oh, right here. There it is. There it goes. Okay. So basically, the way I have it set up is that it's going to get the rigid body component on the actual object itself, not on the thing that we hit. And I'm going to add a force, and the force I'm going to add is X and Y. So there's 2 values here, right? So I have to make a new vector 2, and then I'm going to give it the X value and the Y value. Now you might have noticed that I did times 2, because basically I want to push it twice as hard outwards and then just a little bit up as well. So basically it's going to be twice as hard here and once as hard here. That's why I put it times 2. You can change these numbers if you want. You can make them both the same. You can make it just shoot it up. You can make it just shoot it out. I find that it looks a little bit better if you actually push it up a little bit too. And then all I'm going to do here is just now do an else. And we're going to take this exact same thing. I'm going to copy it. Control C. Control V. Tab that in. So it's, and we could get rid of this strike too. That's not necessary. And then all we really got to do is basically just put a negative on these instead. So that'd be a minus. Just on this one, because this is direction. We always want to go upwards. And we'll save that. And I'm going to go back here. And then we're going to click on enemy. And I'm not honestly all that sure how much force I need to apply. So let's do 100. I think it's going to be way too much, but it's better to go too high to know that it's working when it adds the force than to... Oh, he's not doing anything. Fight me. Okay, that didn't work out. Let's try it again. Alright, and... Alright, should come towards me, and let's see. Oh, see, see a little bump? Just a little bit. Okay, yeah, so actually that wasn't even enough. Let's do 500. So let's see, that should give me a good little pop, if you will. Oh, that's a bit too much, right? So you see actually it's going up more than it's going out. So I might even need to divide that. So let's do this 250. And then I'm going to go back to my code here. And I'm going to take the melee bump, this one. I'm going to divide that by 2. So, because I felt like it was doing a better job of pushing up. Because this is my Y and this is my X. So we'll save that. Go here. But you can play around with those numbers and decide, like, you know, how much you want to do. But let's see. And let's up my melee attack amount too. Let's make that like 25. So that way I get hit 4 times and I die. I feel like that's a little more fair. Okay. Boom. And let's see. Boop. Yep. So now he kind of like hits me. Oh, and then I died. Alright. That was weird. Ugh. Oh, because my health is already 0. So every time he goes to kill me, so we actually have to add that to the script here. Forgot about that. Okay, so, and then we're just going to go here, and if life is -1, it's going to start, and then just we'll reset the player health. So we'll just do player health, and I'm going to set it back equal to 100. That way it'll go back. So when we do get removed a life, it will set player health back to 100. Probably should have done that anyway, if, you know, for other stuff. So I'll just save that. And I think that is good enough for melee damage right now. So now we have it, basically, we have it being able to patrol. We have it being able to chase us down, and now we have it able to hit us, okay? And then in the next videos, I'm going to try and incorporate, I'm going to try and make it even a little bit more difficult. We're going to build up levels of difficulty onto this enemy until it becomes, you know, a much more intelligent enemy, if you will.